G'day, Osher Ginsberg here. I have a question for you. Who are you when no one is watching? It's an interesting question, isn't it? Because there's a version of all of us that shows up to work. They're often matter of fact, professional. They portray a person who's really got their shit together. But there's always so much more to people than who we meet in public. There's parts of their story which either we didn't expect or that are not necessary to disclose so that they can do their job well. But those things most definitely underpin the reasons that they are good enough to get hired for the gig in the first place. And those things are often really interesting, aren't they? Those are the things that Zoe Marshall dives into every week on her podcast, The Deep. And Zoe has quite the story herself. Before we begin, this chat does explore the areas of domestic violence, suicide, child sexual assault and trafficking, all in context, of course. But if you're not up for that, I understand. There's plenty of other episodes to check out today. Enjoy this chat with Zoe Marshall. Hello. How are you today, Zoe?
I'm actually good.
Are you good?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah?
I am good. I'm very honest about whether I'm good or not, and today is a good day.
That's
it's a good day. Yeah. How are you?
Oh, well, I'm good. Thank you for asking. Early morning. I can't complain. I saw my man this morning. I'm on a long physical rehab journey, and I saw my man this morning, and he's in a part of the city that's very easy to get to at 7:20 a.m. when I saw him on the motorbike. But on the way back, it is like now everybody also wants to go down this road to the city. And look, lane filtering is legal, but half an hour of it, you have to be on point.
Yeah, well, it's a dangerous thing riding a motorbike in a very busy city with very aggressive drivers. You're very brave. I don't know how that would be for my mental health. The anxiety of that is a lot. You know,
I don't know if they're aggressive, Zoe. I think they just, they're in their own shit, and they don't, that's fine. I always say to other people, it's not. I rode bicycles for a long time before I rode motorbikes, and if
holy shit,
someone's
so you've been
turning
hated on the road for a long time.
A long time. I don't know if I've been hated on the road. I have been the object of another person's perhaps misdirected upset, irritation.
I don't know if it is misdirected though. Sometimes. Motorbike better, but I am one of the people that gets unfairly annoyed at the cyclists, which they're doing great things for the environment and their health. Oof, but my patience is tested, and that just shows me I'm one of those aggressive drivers,
Well, full disclosure, I sit on the board of We Ride Australia, which is a government-facing body, an industry, and it represents the cycling industry. So, look, there's been a lot of research into this, and our country is one of the anomalies that have this attitude towards another human being.
No, this now feels like it's a therapy session, which is okay. But I'm not trying to be defensive, and I'm look, what I'm saying is it tests my patience. I'm not aggressive. I don't honk. Yeah. I don't do dangerous behavior. But internally I'm like, do you know what it feels like? It feels like someone is valuing their self-worth so much, and it is triggering something in me that I can't turn up and give myself space or value in the same way they are, So that is, it's spiky. It's frictiony.
The cyclist is, I really don't want to die, so for this little moment of this corner here, I'm just going to take up a bit more lane.
Not that. The fact that they have got their shit together, they've got some riding buddies, they're prioritizing their health. They're really not concerned with my perception of that. They're like, you know what, I fucking deserve this piece of road, and I'm okay with that. And I'm doing better things for the climate, and I'm doing better things for my health. There's a priority shift there. Whereas I feel like there's a little bit I'm a bit maybe envious of that.
I can be pretty fucking annoyed at cyclists, and I'm a cyclist, particularly those who run red lights. I'm like, you're the reason people yell at me, mate. Stop it.
I don't see them run red lights, but I see them take up space, which is natural and normal. but it also feels like cycling is something, it's like you are choosing yourself, it is a definitely, and this is interesting, right? I wonder how many mothers cycle, because you need time, the logistics. Like, I'm very jealous that there is this whole group of people that get to have this much space and time. I think that's what it is for me, apart from them being slow and taking up a bit of space.
The research is really interesting around that. And the wild thing is that I'm pretty sure you're referring to lots of people in Lycra riding side by side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So as someone who's been and have, before all my hip shit, like I would go on group rides quite a bit. And there are group rides that are incredibly aware of their presence on the road and group rides who don't give a shit.
Yes.
And I won't be in a group ride that doesn't go single file when needed. I won't do it because it's bonkers. The only exception, and this is, I live in Sydney, the only exception is that when they built the extra runway at Sydney Airport, they failed to consider that people may perhaps not want to drive, that they may want to use something that isn't a car, maybe walk even. And so there's no accommodation for a non-vehicular transit south unless you take it's about a 15-kilometre detour around the airport. So riding side by side is actually the only safest way to get through the airport tunnel down south and back north. The tunnel that I went through this morning
that's the exception.
Down to Cogra. That's the only time I've never done it. I've never ridden in that tunnel because I don't want to die. But it is really fascinating, Zoe, because not everyone can afford a car, and cycling is the way that people can get to their job. And we often, we look at the world through the lens that we have, and we have this, as humans, we have this bias of, the world appears to others as it appears to me. And, when it comes to side-by-side group riders, I'm like, guys, look, you don't need to do this here. Like, if it was airport tunnel, I get it. But here, you don't need to do this. Come on. Go single file, have a chat about your portfolio later. Come on.
Do you think
that is only 5% of all cyclists. That's only 5% of all cyclists in Australia.
They're giving you a bad rap, aren't they?
Yeah.
Those 5%.
The bike I ride the most is our cargo bike that I have. It fits three of us. It has Wolfie on the back, Audrey in the middle, and me on the front.
Now that brings me joy. That,
dude, it's
brings me joy.
It's when the Amsterdam minivan. It's the best.
When I see that, I'm like, what is up with life? Like, this is family harmony right now. This is joy.
We hockey strap the umbrella to the back. We ride it to the beach, chain it up on the fence, walk down the stairs. My feet are in sand. Genius. I'm not lugging shit to a picnic table. I ride next to the picnic table and put my stuff on the table.
So I'm selective with my annoyance, if you can see that. I'm selective with that.
Right.
Okay, but here we are. You're here. You got here on a bike.
So that was a long answer to how are you? I'm good.
You're good, but there's some levels. There's some levels. Okay.
Well, you know what? There was only one person that nearly killed me this morning, but, the Wu-Tang Clan made it better. Every now and again, when I'm riding the motorbike, just, somehow the RZA, the Gizzer, Ghostface Killer, Old Dirty Bastard.
I can actually see it.
Inspector Dex. It really helps because, cash does rule everything around me, especially when I'm on the road.
Cream. Yeah. I feel you.
Yes, it's the way forward. Now, look, I'm so grateful that we've got a bit of time here because, it's for us, it's daycare day. So all my podcasts are on daycare day, which are always good. And I'm sure you've got a bit of, it is. I love my children so much. And I also love it when I don't have to make sure they aren't trying to kill themselves every 4 seconds. Not that the older one needs that much supervision these days. 19 and 3.5.
Yeah, right. I've got the 5 and I've got the 20 months. And, I just go back to it's the season. We're in a season. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
But to be here with you, there's a nanny downstairs and all is well in the world,
Well, and that's the, daycare and childcare is vital. And this idea that you'll just carry on and off your pop, you'll be fine. Like, I had a fair idea about what the disparities that went on between, a male person, shall we say, and a non-male person in the world, certainly around when it came, your career path or, bringing a child into the world. I'd seen it done in my television career. I'd seen people come back to work after 6 weeks full time. And I've, and then I see Audrey, who, dropped out of uni. She was doing biotech. She dropped out of uni when, she had Georgia, and then she got this like firing makeup career. And when you're a TV and film makeup artist, if you're not in the mix, you're not in the mix, And so a month off means you just stop getting calls.
You're replaceable.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
That's a freelancer gig, And if you ask me, hey, would you do that for 3 years? Put yourself out of the mix for a couple of years? I'd probably say no. Oh, it's fine because you also don't get to make any money while you do it.
Yeah.
And it's never-ending laundry. Are you in?
It's the mental load, let alone the logistical, physical stuff, is so taxing that so if you was the same thing were to say to me, stay home and do all of that and not make any money, or have an excuse to leave, just to leave them and get some help in, I'm always going to take that other option because I don't have that mental capacity to be able to do the monotony of it, because I love the kids. We always say that we love the kids, right? It's not about the kids.
Oh, they're amazing.
But the day in, day out slog of it, as well as the mental load, and then having to meet your children with presence and consciousness and constant kindness and strong boundaries, like, oh, holy shit, that is not for me full time.
Yeah. There's a lot to it. And when it is full time, you can't do all of it. It's hard to do all of it. I'm sure people do. But if even Marie Kondo throws her hands in the air and says, I don't give a shit anymore, like, that's got to tell you something, doesn't it?
And I think then we have to look at it as we will do the best that we can. Like, all of our parents fuck us up. They do. We're all going to therapy because of something our parents did. So we will fuck our kids up. Like, it's going to happen. It's just to what severity. So if we're in a place where we're burning out or our health is depleting or whatever it is, and you're turning up for your kid by like just watch another hour of television or just have something, from the freezer for dinner, whatever it is for you to cope to get through, I think we need to give ourselves those allowances because it's just hard out there. It's hard out there to do it well. It's hard out there to do everything with the same amount of gusto. I find it impossible, and I just kind of like a pendulum swing from one thing to the other. I'm still looking for that person that's got it down, that's doing it all bits well,
Look, I'm sure they exist, and it's a really interesting thing about parenting. Charlie Clausen and I started Dad Pod because we couldn't find any dad content that sounded like the kind of dads that we were. It was all dumb fat dad, the guy you see on the ad who forgets the insurance or, has fucking heaps of mates on, some gambling app. There's no, no, I'm going to close the laptop and show up and come and, crawl around on all fours and do stuff with you right now because now is when I've got, and let's go. There was that, so we started that. And I guess the thing when we're talking about parenting, like it's unlike like my rehab guy this morning, Luke, he can tell me to do a thing and it will work for me as much as his next client and the client after that because we're isolating a particular muscle and trying to make it work. But absolutely no kid's the same. No kid responds to the same thing. They can have these broad brush strokes and no kid gets the same set of parents, The second kid gets a set of parents that have been through it before. The fourth kid gets a set of parents that are like, just fine, you're all right.
Yeah.
It's wild. You mentioned everyone's in therapy and you've been quite open about not only therapy, but therapy that you undertake with your husband. For people who've never been to couples therapy, and you've been doing this quite some time, why is it that how did you first identify that this might be a thing you needed? I mean, he's, professional athlete. He appreciates what coaching can do. Was it a barrier to get him over the line?
Yeah.
Were you harder to drag along?
I think it needed to be a rock bottom for him to be willing. So it was very early on when we had started dating and we had gotten to a crossroads where something occurred that was unacceptable and I was ready to walk and he wasn't willing to let it go. And I said to him, I have so much rage, I can't manage the conversation with you well. So we would need a third party in the room. And he was like, I'm willing. And I said, okay, well, find someone. I said, you got to do it really quick because it was a public holiday and we had a actual vacation booked that week. And he was desperate to go on this vacation. And I said, I can't go with you in a crisis like this. So he rang around, I think, every single clinic in Sydney and found one therapist that was open on this specific day. I think it was the Sunday and we needed her on the Monday. And which was a public holiday. And we went in there and we were desperate. So it was kind of like you can go into therapy with your everything closed off and take a really long time to warm up, or you can just go in there and kind of like spew it all out onto the table. And we were the latter, and she is still our therapist to this day, 14 years on. I see her separately, but she'll see us together for different kinds of things in big life moments. But it was her that said, she was able to identify initially in that first session that my attachment style is anxiously attached, him being an avoidant, him and I not being in close proximity through a crisis would be really detrimental to me. So she encouraged me to go away on this holiday and put really strong boundaries around us to work through this. And it shifted everything, and we were never the same in the best possible way, because the way that we communicate now is incredible respect, even when we're fucking pissed. Can we swear on your podcast?
We've already been swearing a lot. So yes.
Have I just noticed? Okay, so
that's fine.
We have this deep level of respect even when we're raging. We have ways in which just all of these techniques to be able to hear or meet each other, to work through it. And, there's definite times throughout the decade of marriage that we've been through where we're like, we can't actually just do this. One of those times was I was 5 weeks postpartum and the NRL was moving everybody up north for quarantine because of COVID to keep the game going.
Oh, Twin Pines or whatever it was called. What was it called? Twin Waters somewhere.
We went
it was like this amazing hotel.
It was a process. There were so many hotels. Well, a lot of it was very hard because so many people weren't even allowed to be with loved ones while they were passing. And then we got this green light to go, which did all sorts of things internally for me that was just really upsetting. But I had just given birth 5 weeks postpartum, and I had this really dedicated postpartum support, right? Because I was robbed of it the first time because I was trying to be a hero, and I went back to work 7 weeks postpartum with my first. Wow. And so I was super excited. I had all of this stuff, meals and people coming to look after me, and saved all this money to support myself. And then this thing happens and Benj is told, you need to leave this week to go into quarantine. You may or may not see Zoe for 3 months, 4 months. We don't know how long. And the baby and my 3-year-old. And I just, I was so upset, so enraged. I felt so robbed again. I felt so resentful to this opportunity. Also, I was just like, the bit in me, which I would never want to be, was coming up, which is like, you can't leave. I will drown. I cannot be in a lockdown with a 5-week-old and a 3-year-old by myself. I cannot. Where I'm at, I cannot do it. And I know so many people have that as their reality. And we had to call on the therapist to kind of go he said, this is the turning point in my career for me. If I do not go, it's it. Mm-hmm. It's done. I end the way, and it's not the way I want it to go. 20 years in this industry. It can't go like this. So it was just this horrible thing that we couldn't work out. And with her help and support, we got to a place where he said to them, you guys all go ahead. I have to stay here until the women get approval to come with us. And so he missed out on, I believe, 2 games, but he was with me in quarantine in the Gold Coast for 2 weeks. So I had the 5-week-old. We had him in a room with the 3-year-old for 2 weeks. And so, like, look, it was a big deal, but we got through that and we had to make a really hard decision. But in life, there's hard decisions and therapists are the ones to get you through, you know?
Any access to healthcare is a luxury. In Australia, we have an unbelievable healthcare system. It's not perfect. No system is, though it is extraordinarily so far and above so many other countries. So we're very, very lucky. Access to a therapist for a couple is something that not everybody has.
Yeah.
Yet it is something that can be extraordinarily powerful.
Yeah.
But it's a risk.
The reason why it worked that I could go and see her outside of this was because we had such a foundation, which she knew us both so well. I mean, the work that I do on my podcast, The Deep, has only been able to exist because I have a deep need to heal all of my own traumas. And I have tried almost all, apart from ayahuasca, like I've tried almost all remedies, therapies, outrageous types of workshops, all of the things. Like I really deep dived to heal myself. And then I have this constant fascination with humans and suffering and the way that we turn up. And I mean, maths is an incredible example of this, right? We're incredibly fascinated at the way that people are in relationship to each other. Obviously, there's a lot of outside influences to that, but we love to see people in relationships banging against each other, fucking it all up, you know?
I've honestly never watched a frame. I've never watched a frame unless it's on Gogglebox.
Wow.
Never seen it.
So it is, the reason why it's one of the highest rating shows is because we're all obsessed.
I know about it.
You know about it, right?
I just can't do it. I know about it, but I just can't engage with it.
We're obsessed with watching people bang around together and not figure it out. And the thing I know is, have you seen, is it called Shrinked or Shrinking on Apple?
Yeah.
Oh, so great.
Yes,
I've just started it. And some people love therapy just to be able to talk shit. And some people need it because they're so desperate to get out of the position that they're in. And I think that the reason I am so passionate about it, and I share different ways, because you're right, it is a privilege to be able to access mental health care. We do have lots of ways, though, to access it in this country. So I'm also, as much as I'm passionate about all of the woo-woo and the workshops and the weird shit, I'm also really passionate about going, there are, depending on your income, there's Relationships Australia, which is where I started when I was out of a DV relationship. My mum had just died. My family had taken me to court. I had zero. I was rock bottom. I was suicidal. I had no access to money. And I went there, and that was my stepping stone, from that place to seeing that therapist for a little while, building that relationship and getting some more other tools in life to how do I get the self-esteem to get a job again? How do I write a resume? All of those little life skills that take you one step to another, to then making an income a little bit, squirreling a little bit more money away to see a different kind of therapist or to do a different workshop. I think it does come down to, I was willing to sacrifice everything. And I mean, I had 1 packet of minced meat, right, which was $5, minced beef, $5. And I would not quarter that up. I would divvy that up over 5 days to have that meal every single day. I would, whatever it took, so I could put the money away to see the therapist or to do the thing, because I was in so much pain. It was the only thing that I could look forward to understanding how to unravel all of this mess,
When you mention, engaging with therapy and I spoke at a thing yesterday, and someone was asking me, "Sounds like a lot of work." I said, "Yeah, it is, it is." But it's like, the life I get to have because of the work that I do every day to stay on top of it is amazing. It's not like high school where you graduate and then you're fine. Like some things I just simply don't do anymore.
Sure.
Other things keep sneaking up, keep fucking showing up. Like
so
I keep
shit.
turning on the indicator in my wife's car, even though it's swapped around from my car, which is the other way around. Like it's right in front of me. I can see that's the lever to turn the indicator on. Nah, windshield wiper. Like it's a semi-automatic thing. It's like, fuck. And there's so many things in my life that are like that. And so the work does... some of it is daily, but there are peak moments that show up that can change things. And you have mentioned that, say, for example, around the birth of a kid, or as you just mentioned, when you were relocating to Queensland, to go back in and check and maybe get a new set of tools or, reassess where things are to deal with those level ups. I'm wondering if you might be able to kind of talk us through why things like that are important.
Oh, I've got so many examples of this. So one of them was I've got many issues we can talk about. One of them is this extreme phobia of vomit. It's nonsensical, it's irrational, I know it, yada, yada. Working on it forever. It's attached to my anxious attachment to my husband. So when he travels from work, I get really heightened and anxious because he's not here. That I won't get into the back end of that because it's too long-winded, but just know that when he travels, I freak out. So my anxiety is heightened. I feel very unstable. I was working so hard on this that a trip came up for him, which was actually bullshit. Like the best fucking trip you can imagine. He's a golfer. It was being flown business class to Carolina, being put up in the Ritz, like playing with all these pros. Like it was, and I said to the... I'm going to go a bit woo-woo, but I said to the universe, I was working with my therapist on this anxiousness. I said, give me a test. Next day, this email comes into him about this fucking trip.
Yes, excellent.
Oh, I was not meaning so quickly. And he's like, look, this thing has come up. What do you think? And he's anxious because he so badly wants to go, but he knows my response is going to be triggered. And I'm like, this sounds so incredible. You have to go. He then freaks out. So I'm in the back end working on how we're going to get through it. I'm going to not be anxious. I'm going to put in some support to get through this so he can have the best time ever. He starts to self-sabotage it because he isn't used to my reaction. So now what you get is someone being destabilized by your leveling up, which is what happens with dynamics, right? You meet, you fall in love, you get comfortable here, then one person shifts and the other one is like wonky. So we had this week of hell where he just was making this so hard for me to be okay for him that I just had to redirect him to the therapist because I could not work out what was going on. He then had to see what it meant that me turning up for him and being okay was him thinking me not being like anxious. He felt abandoned, right? So this constancy of like working on your mental health and knowing how the best way for you to be in the world, how it's going to look, right? So working physically with exercise, mental health, with meditation, or speaking to someone, eating well, all of the things. I've even gotten to the point where I have realized I am addicted to my ambition. Like I'm addicted to being busy, which we know is a Western phenomenon. And so what I have done is worked out how to offload all of these things and delegate, right? Big financial investments within my business to delegate so I have time. What has now happened, now that I have time, I feel completely unstable because I am not doing things. So now I have other anxieties showing up. I have wondering if this is my life, like wondering what is life? Is this it? Like, how do I get a hit? How do I get like a endorphin hit or like whatever it is? And so it's like you said, you never end. The leveling up is just it's incredible because we're growing, but it's also exhausting. You know?
Yeah, but, so is climbing to the top of Mount Everest.
Yes, it is. And that's the thing is like, right now I'm in the middle of something, so it feels tough and it feels exhausting, but I'm still going to continue it because you're right. Like when you get there, the freedom, the richness, the way you see the world. Like I interviewed a guy last week, terminal 4 cancer, right? Being given 2 years to live. And the perspective, the shift in which he sees the world. I had a cancer scare just a couple months ago, and like you don't want to have that be the thing that makes you slow down or hold on to your partner for a cuddle for, an extra few seconds, or really breathe your child in. Or do you know what I mean? Like we don't need those things. We can do that with the work and with the leveling up. We don't have to do it with hitting a rock bottom or being self-sacrificing or self-sabotaging.
When you do find yourself in those moments, and there's an ad. I grew up in Queensland, and there's an ad there that says, "If it's flooded, forget it." It's like you might think you got a rad Hilux, but it can't make it through. You don't know what the fucking road's doing. Don't drive over there. It looks. Don't go, numpty, because we don't want the SES pulling you out 4 k's down the road.
Yes.
So. When you, and it's sometimes hard for me to recognise when I'm there. It takes me sometimes a few goes to go, oh shit. When you do find yourselves in those moments, when you do find the old patterns showing up, or a challenge, something new shows up, like I said, email comes and goes, hey Zoe, we've got this massive thing, and it clashes with the way that you may see yourself or what you might be worth, and then I can't have this. How do you help yourself in those moments when things kind of having this peak moment? What do you use to get yourself back to a place where you can make a better choice than reacting?
Yeah, it's such a great example.
Old tools.
It's such a great example because I feel like things will piss us off all the time, because what we hope for is that life is, calm and easy and joyous all of the time, right? So when you get that email, or someone is being demanding of you, or there's a dick on the road, or whatever it is.
Cyclists.
Fucking cyclists. This fight or flight response, right? And I am kind of living through this great example right now of how to be better at this. I look at people very much like my husband, who's probably the other end of the spectrum, and I'm not saying that's the best way to be, which he's kind of fuck-withable. I was not going to say unfuckable because he's definitely fuckable. Unfuck-withable. Do you know what I mean? He has this energy, which is, this is where I'm at. I will take on what you're giving me in my time in the way that I want to receive it. That to me is so mind-blowing. That to me, that not reactive thing of like, no, fuck you, like defensiveness or being triggered or whatever, is revolutionary. Now he does it to the point where he just will block people's calls and never answer an email. Like, it's not very responsible or mature. And then people come to me like, hey, trying to get in touch with your husband, like that's the most annoying thing. But I would love to meet in the middle and be able to be like, and I think this is where it comes in with finding equilibrium within your self, right? Like if you're feeling, you wake up in the morning and you have a tiny bit of space before the kids and the chaos, or your life, or alerts, and you kind of bring in a little bit of presence of like your intention from the day, I feel like harnessing like a small moment allows you to be like, no, things are on my terms. Like I get to dictate. Like I saw something Turia Pitt put up today, which was like going on my phone and having all these pings, right, takes me out of my focus and myself. So allowing me to establish just a little bit of like me, so I know how to turn up for it, because really we're in control. And I think we lose that a lot because life is fast-paced. We're like, no, they're dictating to me, or I need to. Everything is okay. And I think we forget that. Like, and when you do have a health scare and you're really scared and you think that you might be sick, none of those emails, that person on the road, like things actually don't have as much weight. And I think that we need to go back to that place of like, all right, no, all that matters is like we're safe. And I think that's probably where these triggers come from, is like these neural pathways from when we're really little, think that we're not safe, but bringing that back to know we're actually okay. I'm going to say the word wrong, but what I'm doing now with working through anxiety, or when I'm feeling heightened, great tool is to feel your body. It's like a little yoga technique, right? Like feel your body, what's underneath your body, your clothes on your body, the way your breath is, but also look outside. Where's the city located? Where's the beach located? What's that called? Proprioception, something like that.
Proprioception.
Thank you.
It's why they have mirrors in gyms.
Helpful. So I think that really...
Not just to make sure that you're posing as rad, it's to help you, as someone who has, a problem at the moment because my hips are all fucked, deadlifting straight in a straight line, it's very helpful. That's why people use proprioception. It's really fascinating. So orient yourself in the world.
That is exactly it. So looking at the way the tree is moving outside, but then knowing where your kids are in relation to you, or knowing where the bathroom is. So finding yourself in space again is such an incredible tool to bring you back into the body, and then be able to revisit the thing at hand. Because this is I'm 38 years old, and I'm just getting that it's always going to be like this. There's always going to be people, things, places, irritants constantly, right?
Yeah.
That is life. Yeah. But I'm wanting to get into my like joy era, my pleasure era, my like peace era. Really trying.
It does. But that's the fallacy, I think, that we're sold. It doesn't exist.
Yes.
I come back to it all the time. Susan David, the amazing Susan David, psychologist up at Harvard, her line is uncomfortable feelings are the price of admission to a meaningful life. Or the Buddhist would say that life is pain.
Yeah, life is suffering. Life is suffering.
And it's okay. I was lane filtering in really heavy traffic on the road this morning for half an hour, but it was amazing. It was very stimulating. And it was difficult, but it makes the stuff after that, it makes that when I get off the bike, makes it even better.
That's the bit is we don't know. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you believe in this, right? But the universe, before it all existed, I think it was Disappearance of the Universe is this woo-woo book that says when everything was blackness, one part of it wanted to separate so it knew it's differentiated between the blackness and the somethingness, right? The first part of the Big Bang or whatever it was that happened, we only know the calm because you're weaving through the traffic. We only know the gratefulness of being well when we have the health scare or we've come through something that's really scary. We only know that, right, because we've had the human experience. And if we don't have it, if we're floating around and we're joyful and we're pleasurable and we're, hedonists, then how do we have the full spectrum? We don't. So it's hard to admit that we have to. I think we're always running from the pain,
But it's also hard to I suspect you may be able to speak to this as someone who had, there would be a line of people around the block who would agree if you had said, I am this way because of what happened to me. Mm-hmm. And they'd be like, yep, that is fair enough.
Totally.
If people know your story. And that could be a way to define yourself. And you could hold on to that. And people do hold on to that. What would you have to say about the temptation to hold on to the pain? Like let go and zoom out like you did and go, actually, beach is there, kids are here, there's there, sky's there, city's there, daycare's there, back here, it's just a cyclist. Versus, fuck him and his fucking friend, and they haven't fucking cured kidney disease, have they? Because it's still on their jumpers. That's a Luke Heggie line. Sorry, Luke. Letting go of that pain, letting go of that resentment, that justification is sometimes quite difficult.
I think we all know somebody that life has fucked over and they've allowed it to ruin their life. They've turned up every day since with hatred, with anger, with toxicity. Everything goes wrong for them, everything. And we see them, they're amongst us. And some haven't had a big, trauma, and some have had the worst things happen, and they've chosen that life is fucked, fuck you, fuck life, fuck this shit. And I think watching those people, that kind of, that festering and that slog of a life, I was just like, that is not for me. I would rather, I know I've got a choice. The grief is there, the trauma is there. It's going to be the most uncomfortable, disgusting, horrific thing to look through, to pass through, and it's not going to be quick. But what is my other choices? I can kill myself. That's a definite choice, and it seemed like an easy option at times. Or I can live with putting it under the surface, drinking a bit too much, maybe going to men for attention, finding ways to build myself up, on a surface level and let it pop up every now and again or turn me bitter, or just go head first. And I think because I had nothing to lose but my life, it was my life or head first. I couldn't quite see that it would make me one of those people. So mine's a little bit drastic, but I feel for those that, horrible things have happened to people, horrible things. And I talk to survivors every week on the Deep that have survived the most horrific child sexual assaults, have been trafficked as children, and they're 60-year-old women that are now and have raised children, have shifted generational trauma, right? Have raised children safely, but have huge regrets of how close they were with their children. And at 62 with their 30-year-old children are trying to find peace and resolve. And this woman doesn't know if she'll ever be able to get there, but she's trying. And I think the willingness and the honesty of that is freedom to everyone else that you are hurting around you as well. If someone came to me and said, this pain that we're inflicting upon you, Zoe, fuck, I get it now. I'm going to try and get help. I'm not sure if I can stop doing it yet, but we'll give you space until I can figure that out. What freedom that would be. Whereas if you're just going through it and you're not talking to anybody about it, but you're hurting everybody, for me, that was no way to live. And I was saying to somebody I can't remember when it was, last week, I was doing a talk about DV, and I was talking about how I now have this husband that I'm safe with, 2 healthy children that I was told I would never have, living in a beautiful home, doing a work that is meaningful to me. This was never a possibility for me. This was so far away. But I think the lesson is people will say you're so privileged, you have access to funds, or you have a husband, or you're safe, and totally relevant. I'm so privileged. I'm in this position now, but it wasn't like that. It was very different. And I think it's hard for people to understand that, there are a lot of people out there in immense amounts of pain trying to survive, and some of them go to drugs to survive. And for a very short period, drugs do help them survive, I've spoken to people about it. We're all doing our best with the pain that we have, but to never do anything, not an option for me, And I don't think people listening to your podcast are those people.
Look, some people are
Do you think?
Everything makes sense. Everything makes sense to the person that's doing it. And that's really a hard thing to come to grips with.
It's justifiable, totally.
Yeah, everything makes it Putin thinks he's doing the right thing.
Totally.
In the Ukraine.
Totally.
It's so fucking hard to get my head around that. But for me, I come at it from the lens of addiction of someone who's horrendous ice addict. Why can't they just stop? It's it makes sense to them right now. That's the best option they've got. Somebody does that because they go, yep, this is the right move. It's fucking hot. It's not. But in their head, they have decided, yep, this is the thing to do.
I don't know if right is the word then. because it feels like certain people do things that are compulsions, you know. It's really hard, right, because I get to speak to a lot of the victims, but when I do speak to drug addicts, and it's something that really is hard, we've had addictions in a family unit, and to understand that, right, as a choice is really hard for the people that are outside of that, but you're right, it's a choice. And then I think when you get to people that have done horrendous things, like fucking people that school shootings and, you know, like really horrendous things, you're right, it is definitely a choice. I don't know if they think right and wrong is so difficult, but I know it's a choice and they're desperate choices.
With addiction, it's really hard because, and so I'm sober 13 years, and people, you know, when you're sober, I asked a sober person when I was still drinking, "Can you help me?" So people see sober people and go, "Can you help me?" Or you know, people ask about their kids and stuff, and it's the worst for, you know, to be talking to a parent about their son or daughter and knowing that they're just like into the ice and they can't stop, and trying to talk about it's like right now that makes a lot of sense to that person. Mm-hmm. Like they know it's destroying them, mm-hmm. but it's the best move they've got. Mm-hmm. It's better than the option, which, you know, might be intrusive thoughts, or might be, you know, the pain of something that has yet to be processed, or, mm-hmm. you know, might be awkward. It's certainly not, mm-hmm. I just want to be more awake. It's not that by the time it gets that, it's not that.
No, of course.
And that's really hard. It's really, really hard. It's like, yeah, I know this is hurting everyone around me and might kill me, and it's still the best move I've got right now.
And it also...
And that's so fucking hard.
As a parent, like, this is what's so fucked up, I guess, the more you know, right? I walk into a schoolyard and I know the statistics of how many kids are sexually abused, right? So I'm looking at this schoolyard and I'm thinking these things. My child will never be allowed to have a sleepover, ever, ever. And they're the things, you know, like I can't live with that part. When it comes to drugs and the kids are of drinking age and doing what they do and choosing what they choose and hanging with they hang, like we're free falling, you know, and I sometimes think, why did I have children? Like, why have I done this?
But this is the part of it, Zoe. I promise you, like, I've been through the sleepover thing. I've been through that, all right? And, you know, for me in this country, the stranger danger thing is fucking bullshit. It does happen, and yes, it does happen, but it is like single-digit percentage of all child sexual assaults. It is familial, and we're too afraid to ever speak about it publicly. That's the majority of that kind of stuff. So I get the sleepover thing. I really, really get it. I get the drugs and alcohol thing. And you'll be okay. I promise you'll be okay, because it makes you grow. I mean, I've been through it. You know, I went through it with the sleepover thing, and then the going out and like 12 for beautiful 15, 16-year-old girls hang out with 18-year-old boys. That's what happens. You know? And
they want to do,
and you say goodbye, and then they get their fucking peas, though, and you're like,
oh my God, no.
As a parent, what Audrey and I found at least, is that Audrey had to take me through it because of my behaviour when I was a teenager.
Yes.
I had to be dragged kicking and screaming through like, she's not you, and your life won't happen to her. We can just give her tools that you never had and support her as much as possible. And at this point, she has never given us a reason to think that anything, like, I'm amazed at how she's navigated what's ahead of her. And so I would say it was fucking tough for me. Audrey had to keep saying, she's not you, it's fine. But it's okay now, and you'll be all right. It's hard, but you'll be okay. And who I got to become because of that, you know, it's like anything, really. It's like any of this parenting shit. It's fucked. It's like, you know, I've got to let go of that thing I've been holding on to. Damn it.
I just don't. I need to work on that. That's another therapy session for another day.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about what it is to be in an intimate relationship with a footballer?
Oof. I mean, that they're all misogynists. They're all baboons. They're all disrespectful. And don't get me wrong, like he lied to me for a couple of months when we were dating because I never would have dated a footballer. Yuck. So I get it. I get the misconceptions because I am the same.
He didn't tell you that's what his job was?
No, he said he was a publisher that did a little soccer. Publisher was a really interesting choice for him to choose when he was drunk on the dance floor that night, but he chose that. And I picked up on it kind of on I noticed something was weird on our first date, but the more that we'd go out in public and people would stare at him, I was like, something's up here. Because, I was a pretty attractive lady and all these men are looking at him and not at me. So I was interested about that. But he did tell me the truth and then we had to get through that as well. I understand the misconceptions. I think that some of them are true. You can't deny that some are like that, like in any industry, really. But he was very willing to grow with me and he was very willing to, he's just an incredible human being. So it does come down to the individual. And he's also a leader, he's not one of the sheep. So he was happy to stand up and put people in their place and say what, is right and be kind of a mentor to others. So that's been something really important. He's a coach now, so that's his whole jig, right? He's got to lead by example.
Well, yeah, I wanted to ask, it's a transition that not a lot of people make. Not many players get to still come to the same building but just not have to wear shorts. Not many players get to the point where they, get a desk.
And so quickly.
And stay in the organisation. That's a hard thing to do and a hard thing to hold on to. Yeah. So what do you think it takes to do that?
I think that everybody in the NRL understands the person that he is, the leader that he is, the impact he has on a team, not just the players, but the whole culture. And it wasn't just one team that wanted him, it was multiples. And it really came down to, as a family unit working through what was right for us because, footy's intense. I've only known him as a footballer. The schedule is crazy. And he was going to go into media. Or a
publisher, but mostly footballer.
Yeah, mostly footballer. And so he was going to go into media for a little bit. And then this opportunity happened and he couldn't say no. And it was hard for us because I was like, ooh, the schedule again. The schedule is a lot. But he is fulfilled and purposeful and happy. And that is all that matters at the end of the day, is that I have a happy person in our household that, even when times are tough, he's happy.
When he's done with the day, is he Bandahita level of dad? Or is what kind of dad is he when he engages with the kids?
It was so great. We had an argument a few weeks ago and he was like, I don't want to be arguing with people at work and arguing with people at home, right? We need to be rock solid always. And he rushes from work most days to do school pickup. So this sounds boasty or braggy and it's not supposed to be, but he comes home, he prepares dinner for us. We all eat at 5:00. And from that point, we sit around and we do best parts and challenging parts of the day. So the four of us go around, even my daughter who's 20 months, she just babbles, but we talk about something that was really challenging. And if it was at his work, we all sit around and we say, what can we do to support that for you? And so we go around in a circle, we get everything off our chest, and he's bandit level. He really is, because he has wanted this his whole life. So after dinner, he does the dishes and he also bathes the kids. So he does the afternoons.
Right. But is he up at 5? Is he training and then he goes to work?
Yeah, so he's up generally at 6. He's out the door 6:30. I'm with the kids from 7 till drop off.
Wow.
And then we tag team with nannies or whatever for school pickup and the baby and whatever it is. It's every day is different. But when he's not here, he's at work. When he's at work, he's here. And I try to push him to do something for his mental health each week, which is his golf. But sometimes he's just like, I want to just do something with the kids or whatever. So, yeah, he's really here.
Now, I've got to ask, was he a golfer when you met him?
Not as much. And it is a full-blown obsession. Full-blown obsession.
You're going to have to, like, I was lucky in that I met Audrey when I was like, what are you doing this Sunday? And I was like, I'm going to ride a Century. It's 165 kilometres. It takes me about 5 hours. So I was already doing a thing that took me most of Sunday.
Correct.
When we met. But dudes who like, after the first kid, start going to the driving range and like suddenly have a reason to not be around all day on a weekend, it's like, man, that's bold.
And because he doesn't have a lot of time, and it is it's maybe 6 to 7 hours by the time he leaves to the time he gets home.
Yeah.
It's a thing, like, okay, you have that half the day, I'll have this half, I'll go for a really long lunch into dinner or something and come back. But we're very good at having our own lives. We know we aren't each other's everythings. We meet specific needs, but we have to go outside, external, to get other needs met, and we encourage each other for that.
Sounds like you guys found the Wayne Bennett of relationship coaches.
No, I'm the coach. He is the assistant coach. But he's very willing.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the person that you go and see. I'm talking about the person that you go and see.
God, I thought you meant him.
No. Like, I'm talking about the person that you go and see. Like, this is like...
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was confused. Yes.
Clearly, they have helped both of you become better together and better alone, and it sounds like they're really setting you and your family up. You are willing to be set up for a different experience that you otherwise would have had, which I think for me is the thing. Like we got put on the train tracks. We got put on when we were little. Well, as many of us don't realize we can get off them.
Yeah.
We can. It takes work. It's hard, but it doesn't have to end up where it's going. Otherwise, we just end up repeating shit. So, look, I'm stoked to hear you describe the way that the both of you are in this process, and it's very rare that people do that. You mentioned people like to watch maths because they like to watch people not getting it right. I prefer what I've just heard. I prefer hearing the experience of someone going, "Oh, we're really trying to get it right. We didn't all the time." Like that's more. I think that I like that sort of modelling. I prefer to publicise, I guess.
I know.
In this show, at least.
It's not as exciting, though, is it, than like hair pulling and wine throwing?
It's extraordinarily exciting. I want to know what kind of dancing and what song it was when he told you he was a publisher who plays soccer.
Exactly. We didn't even get into like how to keep the sex life, raring. There's so many it's just a never-ending book, isn't it? It's just fascinating.
It's great. Well, and that's what makes it exciting. Thank you so much for coming on, and I really appreciate the time and the precious, precious nanny minutes ticking by that you spent speaking with me today.
Minutes, yes.
I do, dude. I do. You're the best. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Speak later.